you. Hard work, hard work. Don't work hard, work smart. Something that we hear all the time. That is something that we hear all the time. But when people say this, they do not bother to kind of explain what they mean by working smart. And they don't bother to explain why working smart is presumably so easy and why it should be juxtaposed with working hard, right? So today what we're going to get into in the process of asking the question, is working smart hard work, is we're going to get into what exactly is working smart. Okay. What exactly does it consist in? What are the aspects? And let's look at how one goes about executing these aspects of working smart. And then we may be able to answer at the end of the day, or at least have a clear picture as to the easiness, if you will, or the difficulty of working smart. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Welcome everybody to another episode of Getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. How's it going, Dr. Thunder?
I'm all right, man. We were chatting it up a little bit. My dad is in town. He came down to visit my great uncle, his uncle also, although they're pretty close in age, and then also my grandmother, who turned 93 today. And so congratulations to her. Happy birthday. Though she's Jehovah's Witness and does not celebrate birthdays. So, but she won't see this anyway. So I'm going to say happy birthday to her anyhow. And my son, who is 7, had a baseball game.
How did the baseball game go?
Oh my! He's hitting 1,000 for the season. This is game 2, and first game he hit 2 singles, and batted in a run and scored a run. And then today's game he hit 3 singles, and batted in a run, scored 2 runs. So, he's 7, so fielding is not, the fielding is the problem with the game. That's the inherent issue. Nobody can catch the ball, or, and throws are not as accurate as they might be. But it's been a good day, and had a tough day at the gym too. And that was, I suppose that was smart work too, because trying to extend my life, but it was grueling.
There you go. So I promised in this brief introduction that I did is that we were going to try to answer the question, but the answer to the question is not the main thing, because we're talking about getting ish done after all. And that's what this chat is about. That is what this conversation is about. That is what this show is about. So whether the answer to the question per se is not quite relevant, the journey to answering the question is pertinent, because on that journey, we're going to find out exactly what this smart work people keep talking about is. So let me go ahead and start. I think that this one, okay, we're going to spend a couple of episodes just on this smart work one. I get the sense, because I think there's a lot to unpack here. So if you just do your intuition magic, like what are they talking about when they say work smart? Well, I would say, okay, efficiency comes to mind, right? Basically simple. They're saying, hey, have a system whereby you're getting the most bang for your buck. Have a system whereby there's not a lot of friction, not a lot of heat loss, right? Where things are going in a direction that best suits the goal. You're not going left and then going right and then going, up and down, so on and so forth. There's not a lot of wasted motion. Shout out to Yeduru. Or you don't have a boulder tied to your leg and you're trying to run, that kind of a thing. You're talking about being unencumbered. So efficiency. And then there are other things such as learning and reiteration, which is part of, I mean, they said smart, right? So I guess there's got to be some brain involved here. And then there'll be leveraging, knowing your limits. Hence, you leverage other people's time, leverage other people's money, and all those kinds of things involved there. And I think that perhaps today we're going to focus on the most salient part, which I think is this whole efficiency landscape. So let me ask you, does that make sense? Is that the sense that you get when people say work smart? Is it a question of just working more efficiently? And not that that's a simple word. We'll unpack that word, but we're right now just kind of trying to get at what they mean by work smart. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about efficiency, automation, that's pretty efficient.
Hmm.
So, automation with respect to eliminating humans from a product delivery system.
Hmm.
So, for instance, when you go up, say you go to McDonald's and you notice that there are kiosks where ordinarily it would be a person taking your order.
Hmm.
Now there's a touch screen.
Hmm.
That's pretty efficient. And, you don't have to pay for days off, benefits, insurance. And if the machine breaks, you just replace the machine. There's not a lot of, it's pretty efficient.
Yeah.
You're
So you
eliminating
think
that.
what they really, in other words, you are in complete agreement that this working smart stuff really is all about efficiency.
Yeah, that's part of it. Um,
Hmm.
I think
That
that's
is
a major part of it.
good.
I,
Good.
I was saying that to say, um,
Hmm.
it took a lot of effort, many years of developing technology and uh, learning how to. I mean, all of that stuff. Even just the interface of of making the order, right? The interface, the drop down menus, the select, how many patties of meat do you want? Even just that part of it was a lot of time.
Hmm.
There was a lot of time, a lot of hard work,
Hmm.
right? To create something that's efficient. Yeah, which of course, maybe this smart work and hard work is not really mutually beneficial. I'm sorry,
So
mutually exclusive categories. Maybe there's some.
there is something there that I think that on the other side, on the hard work side. So there are two things going on here when people say work smart. They assume out of hand that working hard is inefficient, that working hard is stupid work, that if I'm taking this axe now and I'm striking this place somehow, in other words, there's something about it's inherently kind of contradictory. Like, okay, I wanna stay here for a little bit in a certain sense because work is the expenditure of energy. Work and energy literally have the same units in physics, right? Mechanically, it's moving a force through a distance, right? That's work. Energy is measured in the same units of work, right? So to claim that the expenditure of energy is inherently inefficient is a silly little trick that people say when they say, don't work hard, work smart, right? To create this kind of dichotomy, I think, is a little lame. However, really what they're getting at is, well, here's a way to be efficient. Here's a way to learn and iterate. Here's a way to leverage and all these other things which may be considered smart, right? So I like what you said there because it is your way, is it not, naturally speaking, to try to create systems that then make it more efficient as before you start doing a particular task, before you climb that hill, you want to go ahead and create a system. Before you attack a job, you want to create a spreadsheet, right? I think I caught you saying that once. Is that kind of your thing? And is it easy for you to do that? Is it easy for you to come up with this system and perfect everything and build all the, get all the nuts and bolts correctly? Is that not hard work? Am I correct that that is your typical methodology, if you will?
Yeah, I'm uh, in many ways I'm very intuitive. I'm an improviser,
Mm-hmm.
but one thing that is true about improvisation, and we're improvising now. We understood that there was a particular structure that we would be improvising within. We're talking about hard work, right? The value of hard work. We're talking about smart work and hard work. Is there a dichotomy, right? So we have a so there's a structure that we're improvising within, but there's a structure nonetheless. And what I discovered was that my improvisation would become far more effective, would be better, more proficient if
Mm-hmm.
I more thoroughly understood the structure, right? So much of my hard work is in learning the structure, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
structure is,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So, for instance, if we're talking about music again here, uh, a song has a particular structure. And if I want to be able to improvise over that structure, then I must understand all of the nuance in all of the implied, in all of the implications, right? How things fit together, when it's going to move to the next section, right? So there's all of these things I have to work out. And then I need to work out all of the rudiments and fundamentals, not only just to be able to play my instrument, but to be able to make these sort of connections. And all of that stuff is made much less, um, uh, I can waste a lot less time if I start with some sort of map,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And now I have something that seems to be more tangible to point to. So it's less abstract and seems more concrete. But the more concrete it becomes, then actually the better I can improvise,
Mm-hmm.
which seems to be that's not intuitively obvious, right? It seems to be some sort of oxymoron or something.
Mm-hmm.
The thought that there can be some sort of preparation for spontaneity, and in fact, spontaneity requires a structure.
Mm. So there are a number of directions one could go from here. Now, if one looks within this same I prepare, I have to work hard to know, to think. I have to expend energy to come up with a system, a spreadsheet, a system of understanding the ins and outs of the musical chords and notes and everything, right? I have to know the ins and outs of a particular industry, supply chain, and so on and so forth. I have to know the ins and outs of some particular kind of skill, maybe engineering, so on and so forth, so that I can then create systems that allow me to execute, right? When you're
Right.
then executing, when you pick up the saxophone and then you start playing, you're now able to expend a lot of, in other words, working efficiently does not mean you're expending less energy. It means the energy is less wasted, right?
Right.
So that is one thing I just wanted to, and that's the reason I'm kind of dwelling on this here, is that you're not going to think your way into not expending energy, or think your way into kind of laziness, or think your way into just kind of things popping into existence and so on and so forth. The energy still needs to be expended. If we went into the mechanical world, for example, right, and you think about, an efficient car versus a less efficient car, right? The reason why you want an efficient car, it's not so that you go slower or expend less energy. You want to put the pedal to the metal, but you want all the energy, or not all, obviously, there's still 100% efficiency, but you want a lot of the energy to go towards the end of moving the thing forward, right? And the other thing that you give an example of a McDonald's machine or some kind of a machine, and you talk about all the work that went into it and the knowledge and expenditure of energy and all the manufacturing, all this stuff, big energy, right? That goes into these kinds of things. Now, if we can look at it like a mechanical thing, because mechanical things vibrate, okay, and then they, as a result of that sound energy is lost, and also the heat energy represents loss as well. Those are all things that make something inefficient. So if you have this kind of a crazy machine, piston, whatever, and it's vibrating and shaking and so forth, and it's pretty crappy, and you're like, okay, how do I make it efficient? You gotta go make a nice, stiff piece of alloy, let's say, which takes a lot of energy to create, and which then internalizes all that vibration inside, right? So it's still feeling the pressure, right, of all that stuff, but it arranges it in line with the piston. Let's say if it's a piston that's stroking or something like that, it arranges it in line and it delivers the blow more efficiently. But the energy did not disappear, is the point. Hence, this work hard versus work smart, we've been spending the last 5 minutes trying to erase that dichotomy. Okay, so now one of the first things we said is that, okay, really it's all about efficiency. So now let's look at efficiency. Okay, what stops you from being efficient? What stops someone from being efficient? We've used all kinds of analogies. I use this mechanical one. What creates friction in your daily life? What creates the changing of directions, right? Or is there anything else that you may consider that is kind of in different spheres endemic in inefficiency? What is this thing that makes us, before we go into giving tips as to how to become efficient, because that's where this is going to go, right? Smart work, generally related to being efficient. So what makes us not efficient? What creates the friction? What creates the the directionlessness and the misspent energy, if you will?
Often I think that what causes that is looking for an easier way, right? So when you try to avoid having to do the work, you actually end up doing a lot more work than you would have had to do if you just if you just get started. So trying to devise methods by which to reduce the amount of effort, right? Because the idea here is not, the idea of smart work seems to me to be about, okay, so I understand what people are saying when they say smart work, and often is the case is they're lazy looking for an easier approach. Mm-hmm. However, the idea of smart work is not to reduce the labor, but is to multiply the labor.
Let me stop before you go further. I think I caught something a step prior, which it seemed to me that you were talking about, well, trying to devise the best way rather than just starting, right? You were kind of in that, you were saying something about that, right? So
right.
Sometimes, in other words, what I'm getting at here is people forget the power of empiricism, the power of experimentation, the power of actually doing the work in order to figure out the best way to do the work, right? People forget that a lot of times. People want to sit in their garage and devise in their head the best way, and look, that rarely ever works unless you're talking about something where the landscape has already been kind of well established, okay, and you kind of know where you're kind of improvising in. But if it's a question of doing something that involves other external variables, such as the marketplace, for example, right? You're going to try to create something for people. You're going to try to collaborate with people, so on and so forth, where the environment, the ecosystem, the marketplace, and other people have a say, then it is best to incorporate a great dose of empiricism, a great dose of getting off your ass and just doing it now, as opposed to sitting down and thinking. Now, I cut you off, obviously, but I wanted to kind of just, I saw you kind of rummaging around that area, and I wanted to kind of point that out. Yeah. And if you will, you can continue.
Yeah. So the whole um, searching for the magic pill or something. You know, that search for the magic pill, you could have uh, you could have been actually covering some ground. You know, you need to know what direction you're going in. That's an important. That's something that is important. You have to know what direction you're going in.
Hmm.
Now, it's
Hmm.
possible that you can just get started because you have a rough idea, and then quickly you sort of orient to which direction that you need to travel in. And I think that's valid, but it seems to be a major impediment to be sort of aimlessly efforting.
Hmm. Hmm. So the aimless efforting, that is the second part of what I mentioned
Yeah.
in my mechanical analogies. One is the friction, which we'll get to. There's some friction, external, internal friction, procrastination, all kinds of resistance, right, that happen. But the aimlessness, which you're trying to go from point A to B, the shortest way, the easiest way is a straight line. But you can go for miles, right? You make a few circles, do this, do that, and the other, expend a whole bunch of energy just working at getting to point B, but without a direction because maybe you don't necessarily know what point B is. So uh, I got what you said. And then perhaps the thinking part involves the knowing where point B is. This is what I would like to do. I would like to be able to be this kind of a person in the marketplace. I would like to have this kind of a body, right? I would like to make X amount of thousands of dollars per month, right? That kind of a thing. You know that should be solid. And then you start etching your way there, letting the environment give you feedback, the empiricism. Someone said in the chat that you have to have testing frameworks. So the framework of testing should be is a mental thing, right? How would I test this idea? How would I know if it's working? But then you have to then go in and start doing it in order to get to that goal. Because if you just go in and you don't know what the goal is, you don't know how much you would like to make, you don't know how the industry you would like to be in, you don't know the
Mm.
service you want to provide, you don't know what you're good at or what you don't want to do, but you just want to act, right? That will be the definition then of not working smart, right?
True. Yes. Um, and I'm realizing that there's a particular process uh, that you'd have to go through for anything, and that is you need to know what actually already exists in the market, right? You must know what exists. Otherwise, and this is a common mistake, uh, you end up recreating the wheel. And there is an aspect of recreating the wheel that may actually be valuable because then you'll understand the wheel in a way that you may not understand it otherwise. But what you lose is that you could have started with the wheel and then therefore the effort putting forth rediscovering the wheel could have been in whatever the next evolution, either of the wheel or of the item that was utilizing the wheel. And so, for instance, in music, we talk about in jazz, we talk a lot about the tradition, studying the tradition. And there is this sort of lineage and hierarchy. I'm talking to someone that likes mentioning hierarchies. Um, Lineage and hierarchy of great musicians and their sort of contributions. And so when you're seeking for your own voice, you must first discover others, and then that will give you an approach, a way to figure out where your voice is. Often people make the mistake of saying, well, if I do too much research, if I really study these other artists, if I really get inside their sound, what makes them them, then I'm going to risk losing myself. But actually the opposite is true. First of all, there's no way for you to really sound like someone else, right? Because there's this individual component. So you're not going to really make the decisions they would have made in every circumstance, right? Even if you were to use aspects of their vocabulary, you still aren't going to say it the way that they're going to say it. But having done that work gives you a clear picture of what actually has been done and where the innovation could actually take place.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Very important if you're actually talking about making forward steps and not sort of just doing what others have already done.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so working smart, efficiency, and now we're even beginning to see that there's something about innovation as well. And perhaps it's on that learning and iteration aspect of things, right? On that learning and iteration side of working smart, right? But I think that this is an important thing that you mentioned there. Take a little, just go back again to the efficiency thing, and let's try to get some practical steps out there, right? Some practical things, such as, well, how do I be more efficient? Because recall, we said working smart. What does it consist in? We laid out the landscape. Efficiency. Okay, what stops you from being efficient? What is the efficiency all about? The energy expenditure. Energy expenditure that is focused with minimal loss, minimal waste, right? And we go
Right.
on and on about, well, you got to study, don't reinvent the wheel, so on and so forth. And then someone says, okay, how about in the doing? How about in the getting ish done? Okay, how do I be more efficient? So now, one thing that I do, okay, I say this often in my channel, and then we can go back and forth here, just kind of kicking these ideas of what the things that you actually do in order to make yourself efficient. Now, and you could elaborate upon, for example, that systems thing that you like to do, the systems, the building of a system. Okay.
Yeah.
One main thing I do, I call it the one touch rule, which you've probably heard me talk about before. The one touch principle basically says this, that let's talk about it in the physical world, okay? If you're building a house, okay, you got bricks, you got nails, you got so on and so forth. You got bags of cement over there, and then you have bricks over here, and you got hammers, nails, you got 2x4s, and so on and so forth, okay? And you have these things have to be arranged in a certain spatial configuration, right? So what you do is you make sure that you don't touch things more than they need to be touched. In other words, if you pick up a brick, better make sure that it is going towards, stop smiling, Dr. Thunder. It is going towards, in other words, it's like, let's make it simple, right? You're taking the bricks and you're laying them out, because sometimes bricks may need to be moved twice. Maybe, in other words, you're going to think about the minimum amount of times it takes, the minimum amounts of movements, because each movement takes energy expenditure. So you don't pick up a brick, look at it, think about it, and then put it back down. That is ridiculous. When you pick up a brick, you better be going to put it somewhere where it belongs. Don't just pick things up and drop them down, okay? The number of touches that it takes. It could be a nut and a bolt. Okay, this is a 2-touch process. I pick this thing up here, I do this, and then I do that. 3 touches. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Anything more than that becomes waste, becomes less efficient. Now, I translate that into, or I transfer that into your regular life, okay? Mentally, you're touching things all the time. You're walking around with a list in your head. You look at this thing, whatever it may be. This thing, I'm supposed to write an email about this particular thing to my friend. But rather than write the email right now, what do? You pick it up, you look at it like, oh yeah, this email, okay, I'll do that later. Or the list, the pile of laundry over there, okay, I'll I'll take care of that. You don't seem to realize that what you're doing right now is also energy expenditure. Mental energy, we tend not to understand because even though we know, okay, even if, let's say we don't know, but let me just go ahead and state it that your brain uses a whole lot of energy. Okay, a lot of the energy that the calories that you're consuming are used up by your brain, and then your eyesight. If you're a sighted person, then that is a major part. That's why when you want to rest, what do? You
You close
close
your
the
eyes.
eyes, right? You close it because that's a huge energy expenditure. But best guess what we do? We go around looking at things, thinking about things, touching things, and then not executing on them. And it's a double whammy because number one, you're doing the picking up of a brick and putting it back down and picking up of a brick and putting it back down. But secondly, you're loading your head with lists, with all kinds of stress, right? You're literally stressing your head. So now you're going to be less efficient with the other things that you're supposed to do. So just imagine that when you walk into the house and you see those dishes, you just go do them. When you think about, oh, I got to write this email, just go ahead and write it. It'll free up. All of a sudden, now you're going to be more efficient with the other tasks, in addition to the fact that you're not wasting undue amount of energy on the task that you're executing by touching them only once. So I call it the one touch rule. Once something comes into your consciousness, if you can do it right now, go ahead and do it right now. So
Yes.
what is your or any comments, additions on that, and then give us one of yours, if you will.
Yes. So we're talking about uh, freeing up bandwidth, right? And that's the part that you were talking about when you said you'd be more efficient or more effective at other tasks, right? Because now you have more intensity, more focus that you can aim towards whatever the next task is. It's kind of like I don't know if you've ever done this on a computer when you're trying to copy multiple files at the same time.
Mm.
Multiple file copying jobs. So say for instance, oh, I want to copy this 200 gigabytes of these files over. Oh, you know what? I just remembered. I wanted to 50 more here, and you know what? Actually, I remember there's 75 more files over here, also big files, maybe video files, then I need to copy. And what happens is as multiple jobs are taking place at the same time, um, it takes a lot more, a lot more time, a lot more resources, a lot more processor power uh, to make the transfer. And even if you were to just say, for instance, pause two of those jobs, the other job would be way faster, way faster. Okay, um, same kind of deal here. One of the powers of writing things down, things that you need to accomplish, is that whatever you have written down, you don't have to remember. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
you write down, you do not have to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're not a person that's ever tried to write things down, then it's likely that when you initially start writing things down that you need to accomplish, that it'll take a while before your subconscious will allow you to release the bandwidth. But eventually, as you train yourself, you'll become more efficient. You'll become better at that process. It's very important. A schedule, for instance, is a way to release bandwidth. So if I know that I have, say, 5 different kinds of tasks that I need to do in my schedule frequently,
Mm-hmm.
then as I am doing those things, I will start to figure out how much time I actually need to accomplish those goals. then I can start scheduling things, understanding how much time each one of those tasks will take. If I know that it's going to take me an hour and a half to do a particular kind of task, then I can schedule a slot of time that's an hour and a half for that particular task. Um, if I'm allowing 2 hours or 2.5 hours for something that only takes an hour and a half, that's not very efficient. I can repurpose an hour of that time. So that's one of the powers of understanding how to schedule your time. Also, in each block of time, I'm not thinking about things that I'm doing in other blocks of time.
Mm-hmm.
I come into that block of time fresh, focused, in the moment, only thinking about that particular task.
You're
If
not
you've
going
been a
left
person,
and right, ladies and gentlemen.
that's
For
right.
those of us who like to keep things simple, we said friction and kind of wasted motion, right? And all these things we're mentioning are gonna be some kind of way related to that. So yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, for instance, if you're a person that is used to carrying baggage around with you, this is metaphorical baggage, figurative baggage,
Mhm.
then it may take you a while to be able to fully let go of the baggage. But as you become better at figuring out how much time it takes you to do certain kind of tasks, and then in each day allowing for all of the essential things in your schedule, you'll start being able to release a little at a time, to release that baggage.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to dwell in this area a little bit after I kind of just read the super chats. Shout out, shout out, shout out. There's a super chat over there. I believe it is $5. $5 says, I think he's trying to ask about overthinking, right?
Yeah.
Overthinking versus is it just planning, overthinking, that realm, right? And then Young Swift also asked the question of, well, how about those whom? Let me see if I can find what Young Swift says. How about those whom plan and then procrastinate? So we're going to be given a list of things. We're going to be saying several things. Procrastination is one of the ways of being inefficient because it is literally in the friction category. It's a resistance, right? It's that molasses thing, and also it is this encumbrance. Also, in other words, if you combine the one-touch rule, okay, with the externalization rule, I call it externalization. What you said about the lists, because it could be, it literally could even be like counting with your fingers, right? That's another way of I don't have to think about it. Like you could be tired enough, okay, even at this, where you get to the point where like, you know what, I gotta count with my fingers, I gotta write things down, so on and so forth, so I don't have to think about it. If you combine these things together in conjunction with other things that we're gonna mention, then they all kind of work together. So it's not well, how about if I plan but then I procrastinate? It's like, well, for the procrastination, use the one touch rule, okay, amongst other things as well. And then uh, for the utility in planning, then you use the utility in planning, you use the writing of the list and so on and so forth. So I mentioned externalization. And then we'll also answer the question, or I'll allow you to comment upon this kind of the super chat. Let me go back to it right there from Claudie Pierre. Uh, Externalization is a big one for me because again, it's highly related to energy. Besides the use of planning tools, calendar tools, lists of things to write, I can literally get to the point where you're so tired that, or you're so distracted, or this particular kind of task, okay, is just not in your wheelhouse today, okay, but you got to do it. I get to that point often where I literally have to write things down, such as open email from Phil Pierce. download documents in email from Phil Pierce, and on like that. And it works. Why? Because I can sit and write down the process. For me, writing down the process is it's not very energy consuming, right? Because it's not a complicated process. But if I try to do it without some kind of external list, there's states I'm saying that I'm in. Maybe it's tiredness, or maybe it's just, oh my God, doing this Phil Pierce thing today is just, can't do it. But I have to do it. Hence, this is something I do almost every week. Okay, so this one is highly practical and also something that I actually implement. I would write these things down, and then it's easy to just go one by one because it goes to that thing you said. I'm not thinking about step 2. Step 1 is open email. I could do that. Step 2 is download those things. I could do that. Step 3 is, right? And it's like all of a sudden you can do these things, but if it were all in your head and then you had to do it's like doing complicated math in your head. Just bring it out. Start counting with your fingers. I call it externalization because in many forms of it, it's not just a list or a calendar or so on and so forth. Taking things out of your head and then putting it out there. So anything to add to what I just said, plus the super chat?
Now, what is that? What is that called? A procedure? What is the list of items? It's like you figure out. It's not a tutorial. It's a
Hmm.
there's a word I'm missing.
Hmm.
That refers specifically to this sort of list of things. Uh, you know, they're put in such a way that you could give that list to someone else, and they could
Well,
carry out the.
sometimes people call it something that is a foolproof list in a manual, for example. But I don't know the word you're looking for.
Yeah, well,
Instructions.
we can call it. Well, yeah, but we could call it. We'll call it procedure.
Okay, yeah.
We can call it a procedure for now. But there's
Mm.
another word that specifically speaks uh, to this. It's okay, but okay. So, so in the practice room, for instance, if I'm practicing, when I'm talking to my students about their own practice procedure, right? There are categories. There are 4 basic categories, and all of the material that they prepare fits into those categories.
Hmm.
And then they're going to have lists of items that will fit into each category, so
Hmm.
that when they get in the practice room, it's not a matter of, well, now wait a minute, now what is it that I need to practice again?
Hmm.
Well, I need to think of something to practice.
Hmm.
No, it's not that at all. All of this stuff is listed out. You
Hmm.
know what it is that you that you need to practice, and you know the categories by which to practice in the material, the kind of material that you need to practice, right? So all of that stuff is done for you. Matter of
Hmm.
fact, in my office, and I'm going to do this again. I haven't done this for a while, but on a dry erase board in my office, by instrument,
Hmm.
was a list of things that I wanted to practice, that I
Hmm.
wanted to accomplish per each instrument,
Hmm.
so that when I got in my practice space, all it took was a glance at the board
Hmm.
to communicate what it was that I needed to work on.
Hmm.
So I could pick something, and there were different kinds of things per instrument. So I could pick a different kind of thing. I don't know. That maybe is allowing a little bit for, you don't always feel the same. Sometimes you come in and you're like, I really feel like something that's going to be really challenging today. Or today I feel more like, well, let me develop this other aspect or whatever, you know. But you have
Hmm.
some options, things to
Hmm.
practice, all of which are quality things. Something else, something else that comes to mind when you're talking about efficiency is a concept that I call piggybacking. And I'm not the only person that calls it that. Okay, it's a concept called piggybacking. Let's put it that way. I didn't invent the term.
Oh, you're plagiarizing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Eh, and maybe I'm plagiarizing myself because I'm not sure. But um, piggybacking is the idea of doing two things, at least two things at once, where you're using different. One of them would be something that you can do automatically, something that you can do that doesn't require focus. It may still require intensity, but not necessarily focus. But then the other thing is something that would require focus. So a good so an example of piggybacking would be running on the treadmill while listening to an audiobook, or
Mm-hmm.
driving while listening back to a lecture,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
maybe at a
Mm-hmm.
lecture that you actually attended because you recorded.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
So,
record
yeah.
frequently and I listen back while I'm doing other things. I'm at the gym and I'm also listening, I'm also studying, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the same time. This is piggybacking. Very
It
efficient.
it takes a certain amount of in other words, you have to be a little smart about piggybacking, don't you have to be? In other words, you could run into the problem of trying to do that thing which is not very possible. Or in other words, this what multitasking, right? You may run into the problem of multitasking if you don't know the right kinds of things to piggyback, right? Running on a treadmill, yes, you can listen to your performances and you'll be fine. I think if you're having a certain kind of conversation, for example, and this is something that happened to me recently, or something that was drawn to my attention recently, like if you're eating a piece of food, okay? I like to cook. Have myself a nice lamb, or nice rack of lamb with some kind of braised kale and whatever the other day. And I sat down and I had somebody on the phone. Um, and the kind of person with whom I have very engaging and engrossing conversations, right? And this person literally warned me that, you're not really going to enjoy that food very much. You should probably listen to a certain kind of video. A certain kind of video that he talks about. Because I listen to, let's say the stock market, cryptocurrency, those kinds of things, which are, in other words, they don't require a lot of, they're two dimensional, if you will. There's technical information about the markets, technical analysis, fundamental analysis. And I could just, I'm enjoying that little lamb and just consuming, information, and it'll be fine. So I kept on talking to the person, right? And he was right. I did not enjoy that lamb as much because, in other words, those two things are not quite, they don't piggyback very well. I lost my great
Mm.
lamb experience. And so now I know. Now I know. So,
Well, one thing that you're pointing out, or something that occurs to me, and or you may be implying, is that we're not all the same. Different things may not work together the way that they work for other folks. For instance, um, listening to music and trying to study at the same time is not something that I'm capable
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
of. Because if music is too soft for me to discern, it's frustrating. And if it's loud enough for me to discern, then I'm dissecting the music. So if I tried to use music to go to sleep to, it's not effective. I'm engaging with the music.
mm-hmm,
I'm an active listener. Um, if I'm trying to memorize some terms for an exam and listening to music at the same time, I'm not going to do a particularly efficient job of absorbing the material, memorizing the terms.
Hmm.
Be-
Yeah. So music for you is like certain kinds of conversations for me. I guess I just can't. I
uh,
can't do it.
yeah, no, it's not possible. And I've had to have conversations with my wife on this matter
Hmm.
because for her, music is something that she can zone out and not really be paying attention to.
Hmm.
So in car rides, for instance, when she would have music, or she would have me put the music down so soft so that we could still have a conversation,
Hmm.
it's very hard for me to pay attention, and or just irritating because the music is not quite loud enough for me to hear what's going on. Um, and then she likes to go to sleep, and she'll have music on. It's not something that I can do. It's just not something I can do unless I am so exhausted that I just don't. I'm not going to remember anything. It's not something that's going to be possible. Um, Something else I think about with respect to efficiency, and this is tied to scheduling, organization. Getting your time together. That is uh, things like packing a lunch,
Hmm.
or when you leave the house in the morning. Um, yeah, maybe you have your lunch with you, but maybe you have a couple other things with you, so that it will not require going to a restaurant or ordering something or whatever it is, the kind of things that are going to um, re in a negative way take away from your time.
Hmm.
Um, so those kind of things are important, on campus, you know, on at, in college where I teach. It's a frequent thing that I talk to students about because they'll have these meal plans, and they can just ask the person to say, hey, can you make me like 2 sandwiches, and here's what I want on those sandwiches. They're in there for breakfast. They don't have to go back there for lunch. Now they don't have to take the maybe 30 minutes to an hour, depending on you know how fast they are or how far away the dining hall is from where
Hmm.
they are. It's all about creating more
Yeah.
practice time.
So that
So
one.
if you can save 30 minutes here, 15 minutes there, an hour here, you know, you can use that time in other more productive ways.
100% thinking about the future, right? That's yeah, that's the one I like to
That's right.
call being, well, I partially stole it from Jordan Peterson, but I just rebranded it being an assistant to your future self, right? Just kind of
Yes.
thinking about your future self. So if you combine being an assistant to your future self, young Swift, okay, with the one touch rule very nicely together, whereby you see something and you do it, and then also you're also planning for your future self such that it doesn't have to have these hurdles and pretty much obstacles in the way, right? So you're clearing out obstacles in the way of your future self. And any obstacle that you see currently right now, you immediately take care of it with the one touch rule. When you're in that mode, it's like you're like Superman. Now it's tough to because one still has to deal with chaos. There's going to be some kind of unexpected things that come up, so on and so forth. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, today we are talking about, is working smart hard work? We're answering the question. The answer to the question is not so important. However, defining the question clearly, in other words, what is working smart, right? And what is this hard work that they are talking about? We have discovered their lie that, hey, they're telling you that working hard is necessarily inefficient work, which is not. It's just a question of energy expenditure. It is silly to say if you expend energy, you're being inefficient. No, energy expenditure has to happen. It's just a question of, is it efficient or not, right? You're still going to deliver the blow, but do you want to deliver the blow in a straight line with your fists locked in the right kind of angle, with the two knuckles that actually deliver the blow being focused rather than focusing on this knuckle? This knuckle, the knuckle of your pinky, does not deliver the blow. The first two knuckles is what delivers the blow. You line things up with those knuckles, boom, right? It doesn't mean you're using less force, less energy. You're just working smart, right? So then we are like, okay, working smart, what they mean tends to hover around things such as efficiency, tends to hover around things such as learning, reiteration, leveraging, and so on and so forth. And we're stuck on this efficiency piece because we think there's a lot to be said about efficiency, obviously, right? And then we say, well, what is efficiency? We use mechanical examples. We talked about the friction. We talk about the misdirected motion. And then we start giving pieces of advice and so on and so forth. One thing now, if we were to move into the internal world, right, a little bit, procrastination and all kinds of resistance, right? And I know that we've kind of touched on it in terms of like, okay, the one-touch rule, the, perhaps having a calendar, and so that you have something to do, and you cast it into the future. You have a particular time for it. You go there, and then you're gonna do it. But is there another? Is there something else that you do in order to, other than just whipping yourself out of it? Is there any other piece of advice that you can give to people whom are, ardent and well practiced procrastinators?
Okay. For this, I'm gonna have to go 5D.
Let's go.
I know you was waiting for me to go 5D, so I just went ahead and got it in. Look, here is the truth about procrastination. There is no pill that you can take. There is no mode of thinking that will cause you to overcome. There is no positive reinforcement, no patting on the back, no sermon that you can listen to, no law of attraction that will overcome your procrastination. You have to do that. And I have just talked about calendars and lists and everything else. And the truth is, I'm sorry to say, that your word has to mean something. You have to do what it is that you say that you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you do not have that level of personal integrity, then it doesn't matter what you listen to, who tells you, what they tell you. You're never going to overcome that. You must do what you say. You must stop waiting, and you must get to it right now. That is the only way to actually overcome procrastination. You take
there's no
one
pill?
thing at a time. That's right. There's no pill.
Aw.
There's no pill. You just have to start. You take one thing at a time, and you follow through with that one thing. And then you add things to the list. Okay? That's the only way. That is the only way.
I see.
All right,
I
man.
see.
I'm sorry I had to go 5D on you, man.
You have to go 5D. No. When it's necessary, it's necessary. it takes a lot of energy to go 5D, Dr. Thunder.
Right. Now, when you're talking about efficiency, that's why getting it to do all of that stuff, that there was some time associated with that.
There you go. Shout out to W. Alfonso in the house. Thank you very much for your $2 super chat. Thank you very much. Now, I think that little piece there is absolutely necessary in the sense that look, there is a morality aspect to it almost, right? Which is, well,
Mm,
you need, you said it, not me. You said your word has to mean something, right? Your
that's right.
word has to mean something. And you need to say something and you need to be accountable to yourself. And there is no hack for morality, right? There's no trick for morality. All these other things that we're talking about is just means to an end. I'm like, oh, use the one touch rule. And you say, hey, you use these different kinds of externalizations. I say, hey, you make sure that you go ahead and you're planning, okay? You're planning things and such that there's you don't have to then replan and replan and replan, right? So you have a goal in mind. You have a target. You know what's been done. You don't reinvent the wheel, so on and so forth. But when it comes down to you actually getting your butt up and doing it, there is no magic pill, right?
Man, I'm sorry to have to do this.
Let's go.
I gotta go 5D again, man. Stop simping.
There you go.
All right, that's all I wanted to say.
That is the 100%, 100%. Yep. That is the moral component there. That is the
That's the wait.
commandment.
That's right. There's only one commandment. Stop simping. That's
I
it.
like
That's
it.
all you
I
need.
like it. I like it.
It's
Like,
very
oh, gotcha.
simple. It's very
Yeah.
clean.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can, your book will be a very simple one, printable, distributable, right? I got one
Yeah.
commandment, ladies and gentlemen. Open it, stop simping. It solves everything. So shout out to another, or is it? No, it's not the same. 19 Bash in the house for the $2 super chat. Says thank you. Let me go ahead and give you a round of applause there. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Uh, says thank you for the awesome video. And then we got Mr. DK Tawan. I'm assuming a Mister. Well, we got DK Tawan. Go ahead and read that if you don't mind.
Sure. Please talk about after starting the commitment to stay. I start some things, but sometimes I don't finish. Please give a word on that. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Yeah. So after starting staying committed, this is interesting. This is going to be a little bit of an excursion.
Mm-hmm.
My response to this.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Tell us your deep, dark secrets. Floor is yours.
Well, yeah, right. So the commitment thing is interesting. Men tend to not have an issue with commitment. Often, though, we may have an issue with keeping things fresh. So it's possible to sort of get in a rut and to kind of continue doing something beyond its usefulness. So it has lost its effectiveness, but we're just going to keep doing it. So it seems to me that is a more usual tendency for men is that we don't have an issue staying, but the quality of the atmosphere, if you will, may not be what it once was. Right? So now, so the commitment to stay. I know, me personally, I have this sort of 3-year kind of cycle that I kind of go through, or I have gone through. in the past. When I was in high school, my senior year, I'm sorry, my junior year wasn't very good, and I needed a change. So I made the change, and then my senior year was very effective. I took a year out of high school. I didn't want to go to college, and that turned into 2 years. I went to school full time for 2 semesters at a junior college, community college, to do some general education courses.
Mm-hmm.
And then I transferred into a 4 year institution.
Mm-hmm.
The first 2 years were strong. The third year, I almost dropped out of college.
Mm-hmm.
Then the last year was, fourth year there was strong. And then I went straight through a master's degree, which was a 2 year program. So I didn't quite get to the third year cycle issue again.
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed that this has been an issue, and
Mm.
eventually I have overcome that.
How
I
did
have
you overcome
started
it?
to well, I've started to recognize the signs,
Recognition.
right?
Okay.
Okay, in burnout, I, I've I have learned to call this burnout.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I relate to it. And burnout, I think, is caused by uh, it's caused by not addressing or what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, Not well. I'll just say it this way: it's by not addressing, not fully feeding, not doing what you need to do in order to take care of some of yourself in one of three ways: spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
could professionally or mentally. You
Mm-hmm.
could put it that way, and then third is physically.
Physically. Physically. Okay.
So those three things. So uh, now, if I get to a place where I'm like, oh, what's going on, then I know that for an extended period of time, I've not been addressing one of those basic needs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I try to be critical about how I'm spending my time, what it is that I'm doing, what I can do less of, what I need to do more of, and
Mm-hmm.
then I start to do those things. And it's not magic,
Mm-hmm.
but it gets better.
Okay. So, and I was thinking about this, and D mentioned here maybe you just don't like the end. In other words, or I okay. So let me recap what you said, and I have a couple of things of my own on different dimensions. So you're saying, so what you're saying is, Dr. Peterson, that you got to recognize that your patterns, right? You recognize your 3 year pattern. Maybe someone recognized that, oh, they start something and in 2 weeks, they're done. Whatever it may be, recognize the pattern, right? Awareness is the basic key. I always talk about awareness. I always talk about the dashboard. If you don't have a dashboard, you're just flying in the dark, right? It's like, in order to develop the dashboard, you just need to pay attention to the organism, its patterns, its ways of being. No, there's no other way, right? So you recognize the patterns, and then you started to notice with further recognition that it's because you're not taking care of something mental, spiritual, and physical along the way. So
Yep.
then you start doing the checking, like, why am I losing this? And then there's the question of the end, the purpose, the pursuit, if you will. Maybe it has lost the novelty, which everything does, right? However,
Right.
that is why, okay, and it tends to go back to this whole morality thing again. By morality, I mean a system of values. That is why whatever it is that you're pursuing it has to be related to at least a very high moral or very high on the hierarchy in terms of your ends. In other words, for me, it is life and the kind of person that I want to be slash am, because those two things are kind of one and the same thing. I am slash I will be, I become, all that kind of stuff. The thing is related to that. So regardless of the particular objective, the particular goal, the particular end, as long as when I made up my mind to do it and I can see that it's still related to higher ends, then it does not lose. Then, in other words, I'm able to overcome the hump, right? Because these things come in humps, right? The oh my God, why am I doing this, right? It's not every day, right? So when that week comes up of, oh my God, that semester, whatever it may be, that third year thing comes up, if your values are aligned, which they should be, okay, that's a different stream, okay? If your values are aligned, then you can always trace it back to a higher level end. If the end right now is like, lost its novelty, you can see though that it's related to whom Ike is. As long as this thing is about what Ike is, then there's no way I'm going to lose the fighting spirit, because it's all still about the higher and higher and higher, going up and up and up, right? No matter the particular objective. Now, I'm going to mention some other things that have to do with personality. And that is, there are people who start things and there are people who finish things. This is just true, okay? They tend not to be the same kind of people a lot of times. To use one simple dimension in terms of like, the openness versus conscientious. In other words, your artist, entrepreneurial type who start things, but then they're not great at systematizing and so on and so forth and keeping things going, So basically, what do you do if you are the starter type and not the finisher type? Well, it's basically simple. One thing that you could do is you simply go ahead and collaborate with people to keep you accountable. In other words, if you know that you're the starter type, and also if you're the finisher type, go find yourself a starter, okay? And collaborate with them, okay? And finish their things. They throw you the ball, you execute, right? And this is the thing about somebody likes to say preferred energy states and cognitive functions, right? So some people are they don't like to start, but they'll finish the heck out of anything that gets started. I'm one of those people, by the way. I procrastinate a lot. I don't start stuff, but it's almost impossible to get me off the track. Once I'm on the track, it is almost impossible. Like, there's no question. It never comes up with, are you going to finish this? Are you going to continue this? No, I'm going to finish it. And then the other people that they're always starting something new and then it just dies, right? So here's where the collaboration comes in. Collaboration occurs in many different forms. So I said partner, collaborate. This is the whole leverage end of working smart, which we'll get to in another video, right? That's the leveraging, knowing your limits and then leveraging other people's time, other people's money, other people's skills, talents, and so on and so forth. And also their psychology, their particular proclivities. So another way to do it is to get a customer, get a market. In other words, if you are the kind of person, let's say you are creating a app, a game, but you sit home and you put out version 1 of it, right? Just the beta test, but you keep it to yourself and you're this kind of person who doesn't finish things, like you don't go to version 2. Don't keep it to yourself, in other words. Give it to your niece, give it to your aunt, your uncle, your friends. In other words, somebody that you're going to say, hey, here's version 1. I'm going to be working on version 2. This is just a simpler, smaller version of saying get a customer, engage with the marketplace. The marketplace keeps you accountable because guess what? Your niece is going to be like, oh, first of all, they're going to tell you if it's any good or not, right? That's one side advantage of engaging the market very quickly. And also related to this topic which you're talking on about testing to see if what you're doing makes any sense, right? To know the right ways of doing things, this working smart thing, right? So your niece is going to be like, hey, young Swift, or hey, Eisen, where is version 2, right? And you're going to be like, oh, I got to get version 2. The marketplace keeps you accountable. The marketplace keeps you pushing forward. The marketplace makes sure you finish. If you keep it to yourself, you're just going to keep on building piles, half built walls all over the place. But when you bring someone in, some kind of a consumer, some kind of person that is kind of tied to it, you get 2 benefits. Number 1, they tell you what's useful about it, what's good about it, what they like about it, and so on and so forth. And then number 2, they're going to hold you accountable and they're going to make sure you do the other thing. So there was a lot in there when it came, I think we already read it. Yeah. A lot in there when it comes to this simple idea of starting versus finishing. You mentioned a lot of things about you and your awareness, and then there are other things about leveraging other people as well, because some people are starters and some people are finishers.
I'm definitely a starter.
Yep.
Um, I'm definitely a starter. Um, but I think of it in and understand. I don't think that what Ike is saying is that if you identify yourself as a starter, then now you can relieve yourself of finishing. And in other words, you never need to develop the ability to commit and stay. And also, if you're a person that the tendency is to be able to finish strong, that doesn't mean that there's no room for you to develop more as a starter, because there
Mm-hmm.
may still be the necessity for at least some of the typical skills that a starter has. Maybe those skills actually could contribute to making you a better finisher, but then also sometimes you might not have someone there always to start. And it's nice to have teams in everything, but sometimes you might not have a team, and in the beginning you just have to kind
Mm-hmm.
of just get it going, just
Mm-hmm.
get it out the mud,
Mm-hmm.
and that doesn't really matter how you're oriented. I mean,
I
that still
steal
is what it is.
with pride. I steal people's start ideas, right? It's like,
Right. Right, and that's the other thing. I mean, you can recognize that that's a deficiency, and then recognize that others have better ideas in that way and are more effective, and just uh, figure out some procedure list that you can follow. Maybe even ask them for some sort of um, oh, that word almost came out.
go now.
That
You
word I
still
keep
you've been
searching for it.
things been
That word I keep
bothering
searching
you
for
all day. Right after the end of the stream, you're gonna be like
it.
brushing your teeth tonight before you go to bed. You're like, got it.
Yeah. So yeah, very, very, very interesting. I did want to digress a little bit. Let's see
Mm-hmm.
here. Yes, there was a question, and maybe you can find it. It was in one of the super chats,
Okay.
and it was about
Uh,
over planning or
yeah. Oh, yeah.
you know,
The plan. Yeah, overthinking and over versus planning, thinking over planning. What's that? But
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I just did a video. Well, maybe it's a couple weeks old now, a week and a half old. Um, I've got another one going to be coming out pretty soon in this leveling up series. And the name of that video is "A Good Idea Today is Better Than a Great Idea Tomorrow."
Mm-hmm.
A good idea today is better than a great idea tomorrow. So, first of all, a good idea can always become a great idea with momentum, right? So
Mm-hmm.
once you start to move with the good idea,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be able to perceive things that you never could have perceived just theorizing. Okay? So a good idea could become a great idea if you get started now, but you're never going to discover the great idea, especially if you're not willing to actually start moving in a particular direction. Okay, so that's something that you'll never be able to discover. So it's not a real. It seems like these are options. Well, I can take the good idea, the bird in the hand, or I could take the two in the bush. But the thing is that the two in the bush aren't a real thing. And that's a mistake that people don't see that. But the two in the bush aren't real. That's not a real. That isn't real. The bird in the hand is the real thing. The two in the bush don't might as well not exist,
Mm-hmm.
right? Same thing. The good idea today, that's what you can control. The great idea tomorrow you can't control. First of all, you don't even know if tomorrow's going to happen. So it's not real. It's not real. These aren't real it's not two equal options. There's only one option. And that's the good idea today. So, it's a way to think about this that sort of eliminates, it can actually take away the sort of pressure of having the perfect solution or the perfect idea, the perfect methodology, the the adequate pedigree, the all of that stuff that we use to basically delay when it is that we're going to actually realize this idea.
Mm-hmm.
So just start moving with whatever the idea is. It'll expose its strengths and weaknesses in the doing.
This is something that I can 100% relate with. Now, in many things that I've done, I've seen people who come in and then they fall off. They never quite stick to it. In the whole music lane, right? You have these people who come in and they don't understand how long things tend to take. And they're all like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna be touring the country in 2 months." It's like, nah. I
Good
mean,
good luck with that.
you can't even play at the local bar yet. Like your uncle doesn't even want you to play at his restaurant, right? Because you
Mm.
suck, and and somehow,
Oh.
well, I'm sure you know of these types, right? That
Oh yeah.
oh yes, oh yeah, if we just get let's get it done. I know this person over here, and the A&R from Sony Records is talking this, and my uncle is like, dude, no, you're just bothering these people. Okay, yes, they take your call. Because because you're annoying, and they just like just you're trying to just at least give you a little bit of a bone or something, right? And now, and the ones that then succeed, because I know people now that are, that they finally made it. They finally hit, whether in the hired gun category that then gets absorbed into some kind of a bigger band, right? And now they're the guitar player for whatever, right? Um,
Mhm.
these are the people who simply just stuck to it, okay?
That's right.
And people forget the power of time. I think I was talking with lead attorney in my conversation with lead attorney. You guys go check out that in this channel, ladies and gentlemen. I had a conversation with the lead attorney, rather a good one, a candid talk with him. And in the end, I kind of asked him to give a kind of pseudo commencement speech, if you will. And he mentioned the importance of time and knowing your limits, right? So the time spent there doing the thing, it's very, very valuable. And this is the kind of the let's say, because we were talking about somebody whom starts, doesn't finish, novelty gets lost, they they can't get over the hump, whatever it may be. You got your whole 3 year thing. But also, from the point of view of just something to look at, not the activities to do, such as be aware and then know that it's physical, spiritual, or mental needs not being met, but just from the point of
Mhm.
view of a logical proposition to understand, it is that example after example after example shows us about these overnight successes that take 20 years, right? Okay.
Yes.
Always, all over the place. Oh, Kevin Samuels got 1 million subscribers overnight.
Oh, right.
Overnight. How did he do it? Let me try to replicate it. How? Yeah, it was in 6 months he did. Like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. I was talking to a friend about this who wants to start a YouTube channel. And he wants to. He's a handy guy, fellow engineer, but he likes to build things. So he wants to do like show how to do things in 3D printing and this and that. And he has that issue, probably similar to your kind of thing, Doctor Thunder, where he wants the perfect system first of all, right? I'm like, dude, when you're
Mm.
tinkering in your garage, just grab your cell phone, okay? Put it over there, start recording. Just start doing it. Your first 100 videos don't mean crap anyways, right?
That's right. That's right.
The first 100 videos don't matter. Just start doing it and then get the momentum. The thing you always say about once you get the momentum, then the steering wheel becomes useful, right? Then you can
Right.
turn 180 degrees around, right? If you were going in the wrong direction before. But just get the momentum, start recording, start doing the thing. You're gonna, because in this kind of YouTube land, the audience also keeps you accountable. Okay. But then ultimately, as you said, the rule of stop simping, the rule of your word has to mean something, the rule of you have to be somebody that does something. And shout out to Bernard Riley. I was in his channel on Saturday. I do a regular show with him over there every Sunday usually, but he was taking a flight, so we did it on Saturday. And I went off. Not super going off or anything, but I just kind of do the kind of, in other words, I was just mentioning that, look, I got to wake up in the morning and kill my inner biatch, right? Every morning, right? And that I don't care if you a $40,000 a year bitch ass nigga or a $200,000 a year bitch ass nigga. You're a bitch ass nigga. We're all bitch ass niggas. We all gotta kill the inner simp, the inner bitch every day. You gotta overcome that fear every morning, and then you gotta go out and get it done. I don't want to hear any of this crap about comfort or comparison. Comparison is ridiculous to me. It is, oh my God. I'm hearing some echo over there, by the way. But comparison, how about the percentage of people who make much money as I do? How about the percentage of people who, in my age range and my race, I'm doing fine for a XYZ, right? I'm doing fine for a one-legged blah, 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 right? It's like, what the hell does that even mean? I told him this. I was like, look, you are alive in a time, especially, let's say, you're alive. You have an IQ of over 110. Okay, so you're not like IQ 75, dude. Okay, you got an IQ of, because generally speaking, if you're on Bernard's stream or something like that, it gotta be a little bit over average. If you're on this stream, and yes, I have to, I can confidently say it, we're probably averaging 120 over here, 130 even. You don't have to be like Dr. Thunder, where it's probably like 160. Never asked him what is. I suspect something, but if you're on this live stream, you're alive in a time when you have your faculties together and you're a relatively intelligent person in a situation, being political situation, country, and so on and so forth, where you're unshackled. Okay, you are unshackled. You are free. It is almost impossible to meet your human potential, is what I'm saying. Right? So talking about the cohort, the group of people who make this much compared to, like, what the hell are you talking about? When you have founded 5 nations, okay, when you are Abraham or Moses, then maybe you can relax then, right? What I'm saying is your human potential is almost impossible to meet. So talking about, I'm doing okay for it's like, no, you're never there. I know the things that I have not done. I know the bitch ass nigga that I'm trying to kill in me every morning. There's certain things in my company that I have not still set up that thing, the DBE, so I can take advantage of the transportation, blah, 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 blah. I haven't done that. Many things look, I know that I need to get an SE license, and one day I'm trying to get a PhD. Until I get there, until I do those things, I'm bitching and p-footing my way around right now. So the idea that, you got to be comfortable somewhere, like, whatever, that's nonsense. That's insane. It's stupid. Stop being a bitch ass nigga.
Yeah. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I think it's up right there. I think it's right about 8. So I'll give you the last word, sir.
Well,
let's go.
Stop simping.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. We did not have the time, or because we were elucidating this topic here on working hard versus working smart, we did not bring people in. Perhaps the next episode, when we continue the conversation, probably moving into the leveraging and learning and reiterating aspects of working smart, we'll be able to bring people into the panel to have a conversation. But today we wanted to make it known that the idea that working hard and working smart are mutually exclusive, that they're contradictory, is BS. It's a lie. They never quite tell you what working hard is, and they don't tell you what working smart is. We know that they smuggled in the concept of inefficiency and tied it to working hard, and we expose that whole idea as being nonsense, because working is just the expenditure of energy. Expenditure of energy is not inherently inefficient, okay? And also going about to figure out the right ways of doing things, creating a system, an efficient system, creating a piece of metal that is less likely to vibrate, right, in a machine that's, therefore there's less energy loss and so on and so forth, is not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of work, a lot of know-how, a lot of energy expenditure. So this idea of work hard versus work smart, and then we give you some ideas, some practical things to do. And then at the end, I told you that, look, your human potential is almost impossible to meet. Comparing yourself with anyone else is a mortal sin. That would be my sin. Like you said, your sin is like stop simping. My sin is if you compare yourself with anyone else, might as well just chop your head off right now. You're useless. Okay, you're wasting your life away. There's no point. You're taking other people's space. You're taking other people's air. What the hell does what everyone else in your group or whatever and how you compare have to do with anything? Okay, I'm not saying we're not social animals. I'm not saying that we do not compare in that way, but to kind of tie it to your satisfaction and your comfort as though you are Alexander or something. Like, no, for Jesus, the gift of being alive in this particular day and time, okay, knowing what human beings are capable of, because we've seen what human beings do, and then you're here in this chat with your big brain, being comfortable. Fuck you. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, let's just go all the way there. Since, let's just go all the way there, right? Why not?
You're getting it in.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to remind these people what's going on here, and obviously, I think it's all obvious, and it's all love, and this is who I am. Anyone listening to this does not. Exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, until next week, we will be back to continue this conversation, getting ish done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. Do you have something to promote that you're doing on your channel that people should go check out?
Yes, please. Yes, I do. So tomorrow, that is Wednesday, the 30th, June 30th, I'm doing an episode of Thunder's Thoughts, and it's going to be discussing toxic relationships and the sort of connection to male suicide. And I'm going to be reviewing a couple videos. One of them is a recent video that Jay Horn, the filmmaker Jay Horn, he's got a YouTube channel. He's got about, 185,000 subscribers. He might have more than that now. And he made a video called Toxic Love. And we're gonna review that video. Also another video by the College Movie Fest, or College Film Fest, actually is the name of the channel, and it's called the 15%. So we're going to review that, and also going to review Terrence Popp's his presentation at the CME on male suicide. So yeah, it's kind of a dark topic, but it's an important topic. It's something that we I think need to discuss, need to talk about. So Dr. Doug and myself will be doing that, and then I'm also going to be joining Mr. 1950 on his channel that evening. It'll be a 10:30 show, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. And so come on over and check that out. Those are the things that are happening. And then I think it's next week. Is it next week? Or is it the week after next? That Ike and I are going to be over on Blind Guys, his wife and their channel. Is it next week, or is it the week after that? I think it's 2 weeks. We're separate.
Interesting.
We're separate, but
we're separate, but it's the same week. Okay, cool. Gotcha.
It's the same week. It's like you're before me or something.
I believe it's next week. I believe it's next week then.
Yeah.
Next Friday
So
for me, and
yeah,
then
a bunch of positive stuff happening, and of course we'll be back next week on Tuesday, getting ish done.
All right. And with that, we are out, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.